All right, welcome in to this first edition of the season of the Knee Jerk Reactions on KTGR's YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. I'm Andy Humphrey. If you've followed Knee Jerk Reactions in the past, such as the columns that I wrote post-game most of the last few years, figured we'd do it in video form this year. Figured you guys might like that, so this is what we're doing. And well, the game for Mizzou, I mean, look at the final score, obviously dominating fashion, but they had some key injuries that we will have to talk about here that kind of put a bit of a damper on the mood. And also that was the case with Eli Drinkwitz in the press conference, the way that he was talking during that. But we'll break down what happened here. I've got my usual 5 takeaways as you all have been used to. So we will get to that here. And you can leave comments as well on our Facebook page. And if you do, we'll get to some of those. And overall, this game, it was what it was. Like, nothing all that surprising. You obviously get excited about some big plays that happened, certainly from the quarterback that was able to play for most of this game. And unfortunately, the one that we were expecting to see in the second half, well, didn't because of some really tough circumstances. So let's get right to it here with the first one, and that was Bo Prabula. Like, that's the main part of this. He looked in command. There was nothing really that rattled him. And honestly, for a first-year quarterback, or not a first-year quarterback, but a first-year starter, this was his first college start. And when you have things thrown at you like Bo Prabula had in this game, sometimes you'll make a few more mistakes. I can't really recall too many that he really ended up making. Didn't turn the ball over, obviously, and the numbers ended up being excellent. He goes 23 of 28. 283 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. The very first pass he threw as a Tiger was a 49-yard touchdown to Marquise Johnson, which you already get excited about that combination. And he ran it well, too. 10 carries, 65 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And the pump fake that he had of that poor Central Arkansas linebacker it shook the guy out of his shoes, obviously. And that was very fun to watch from a guy like Bo Prabula who, look, for what happened tonight, he's the starter. Like, that's what it's going to be going forward. And look, he would have solidified that with his play even if Sam Horn got the second half like he was supposed to. Like, there was no way that Prabula, with the play that he had, you were not going to give him the job after this. So, like, give him credit. Like, there can be pressure in a situation like that when you're the guy with the lead and you know that you've been in a competition with the other guy all summer long. Maybe it was already decided based on what the plan was today, but very clearly with how he played, he was going to solidify it no matter what. So that's the main takeaway. And look, there were a few too many things thrown his direction, which we will get to a little bit later on. But, I mean, he had to scramble on some broken down plays here and there. Like, I thought the calmness that he had in the pocket to not get rattled by maybe some guys closing in on him. He made the right decision whether to check down to the crossing route or the out pattern instead of going for the deep shot, knowing that it wasn't there, taking what was given to him, tucking and running when he needed to, and being effective in that. Maybe going forward, make sure that you're sliding a little more often and don't put yourself in a position to take more unnecessary hits if you can help it, because health is going to be a very important part of his availability going forward. So that may be the one thing to work on going forward for him. But other than that, like, as a Mizzou fan, and if you were dead set on Bo Prabula being the starter, and I'm not blaming you for being that, there was still a competition, but there was certainly a lot of excitement around Prabula and the way that he played at Penn State to see how he could translate it here. Like, you saw everything he needed to see, and then some, honestly. People had questions about his ability to hit the deep ball, and he hit that. And so that was that was good. Now, it's all taken with a grain of salt. It's just game one. It's just Central Arkansas. Much tougher tests are going to be coming later on in the season. But for now, all he can do is face the defense that's in front of him, and he did well enough to make them look silly at times. And so that was the main takeaway from today's game. Like Mizzou has their quarterback 100%, and we'll see how Purbuella's play is able to translate to tougher opponents going forward. He's not going to put up those types of numbers, most likely, every single game. So the way that he adjusts, the way that defenses might adjust to him now that they have a little more film on him as a starting quarterback, going to be very key to see. Now the unfortunate part. I was kind of surprised, too, to see Sam Horn playing in the first quarter because we were told that wasn't going to happen. We were told that he was going to play the second half. Now, going back, I mean, it's probably what we wanted to see. We wanted to see Sam Horn getting meaningful snaps in the first quarter of the game when it wasn't 34-0 or whatever it ended up being towards the end in the second half. So, like, you saw that, but a run play up the middle and that happens. Now, there's nothing you can do to control that. Like, it is completely unfortunate. That type of injury can happen in the second half if Sam Horn is playing the snaps that we all expected him to play. And so, like, I don't think we heap blame on anybody for this. It's just incredibly unlucky. And, man, I feel gutted for Sam Horn for what this injury probably is. Now, Eli Drinkwitz was asked about it afterwards, and, look, he didn't go into specifics, but the way his demeanor when he opened up the press conference seems that there's not a whole lot of hope for him being right back at it, right? Again, not going to speculate, going to wait and see. They said tomorrow they'll learn more, so we'll know when we know. But, man, you feel gutted for him because he comes back from a baseball injury to come and play football, and then he's rehabbing from that and putting himself on the baseball field again to make himself as valuable of a prospect as it can be for a guy that's also still trying to play college football with that kind of stuff. And so the road back, I'm sure, was a very hard one for him. And now all of a sudden he's got another obstacle to deal with most likely here. And that's just, it's just unfortunate. And also on the football side of it all, like, again, the way Bo Pribula played, there was no taking the job away from him. He went out and took it today. It was really not going to matter, I think, what Sam Horn did in the second half. Bo Pribula took the job. But Sam Horn should have a chance to have a say in that by playing in the second half and doing that. So that's just adding to the unfortunate nature of this, that it was kind of taken out of his hands. And again, it's nobody's fault. Like, you can nitpick and say, like, he shouldn't be running, maybe not in those situations. And I understand that. If you're going to put him in the first quarter, then yeah, I'd probably want to see him throw there as well. I didn't necessarily see if it was a play where Bo Pribula had his helmet come off and that they just needed to throw Sam Horn out there. I wasn't sure of that. I know that happened later in the first half when Pribula had his helmet come off and Matt Zollers came out there for a snap and then came right back in. I don't know if that necessarily happened. I would guess not, because I would guess if that were the case, then Sam Horn probably comes in and he hands off just like Matt Zollers did. They probably don't call a designed run for Sam Horn in that situation. So still unsure as to, like, why there was that deviation from the plan in that case. But in the end, like, that same injury can happen in the second half. So placing blame one way or the other, I don't know if it's worth it. It's just, you're gutted for the guy. If it is an injury that is in fact serious. And also, that's not the only one. You see on the screen there, two main concerning injuries. Blake Craig got hurt on a kickoff play. I believe sometime early in the second half. I believe it was right after Mizzou's first touchdown out of the half. They go down and score. They go up at least 30 points at that point. I think 33-0. And then on the ensuing kickoff, Blake Craig gets hurt on the sideline from a hit or something like that. I didn't see the play, but he came back into the locker room, and again, Eli Drinkwitz afterwards was kind of equal in how he felt and how he was talking about both injuries. It's not to say that they're the exact same injury. Again, we don't know. We don't know the severity of either Sam Horn or Blake Craig's injury at this point. But man, if you're losing Blake Craig for an extended amount of time, that changes things. Like that, he hit a 49-yarder and a 55-yarder today. And saw the tweet from Tom Orff that his last 4 field goal makes have all been 49 yards or further, going back to last year's Music City Bowl. And so, he was at least looking in game 1 like he could be a weapon. As a long-range kicker, you needed to see that consistency. We obviously knew that he had the range, but you need to see him continue to make kicks at least a 90% clip from 40 yards in, which is what you really need. That's what you ask out of your kicker at this level. And so, but with that range, you kind of bake in the fact that he could continue to grow and develop as your long range guy, and you could feel comfortable if a drive stalls out at the 35 to just say, hey, let's get points, put Blake Craig out there, see what can happen. He seemed to be a little more consistent in that. And now, man, we don't know. They basically split the duties of the kicker between 2 different guys the rest of the game. I believe it was Robert Mayer, who was the place kicker. He came in for all the extra points after that. I don't believe he had a chance at a field goal at all during the time when Blake Craig was out. I'm just checking to make sure. Yeah, the only field goal attempts were from Craig, and he hit both of them. And so, all we know about Robert Mayer, I hope I'm saying it right, is that he hit the extra points that he needed to. Great. But if he has to be the place kicker at some point, then how does that look for Mizzou's offense all of a sudden? And then another kicker came in to take the kickoffs, and it didn't seem like there was any issue there. I don't know if he had any touchbacks off the top of my head, but if you need a kicker that can consistently put it in the end zone, that is still valuable. The Mizzou and really every team across the country wants to make sure that their kicker at will can just put it in the end zone because they want to take a play off the board where the team that they're facing could potentially score. That's the thought process there. And so that's more of a question mark, more about the long-term solution for this team. We know now Bo Prabula is the starter quarterback, and that was maybe what everyone expected going in anyway. And so Sam Horn being out is unfortunate, but you know that Bo Prabula is still there as the starter. It is going to be a question, though, if something happens to Prabula, how capable Matt Zowers might be. But again, that's not a bridge that has been crossed yet. The bridge, though, that might have to be crossed is what would Mizzou's season look like without Blake Craig this year? Again, we don't know the severity of the injury. We're not trying to put him out for the rest of the year before we know. But again, the way Eli Drinkwitz was seeming to talk about it after the game didn't provide a whole lot of optimism. So again, it seems that we'll find out a little more tomorrow. That's what Drinkwitz said. But those 2 main concerning injuries, which you always want to avoid in games like this, well, Mizzou, unfortunately, could not avoid them today. Now let's get to the number 3 here. And this is not really an alarm bell sounding. I don't want to throw up too much about this, but there were times where this was a little concerning, and it was the offensive line. Questions going in. 3 new starters. You're shuffling in the 3rd week of camp as to what you want it to look like because you didn't like the first couple of plans that you tried out beforehand. Move Caden Green out to left tackle. Move Jadise from right guard to left guard. Bring up a junior who has played, limited snaps in his college career so far, Curtis Piegler, up to the first team. New right tackle, of course, transfer from Wake Forest, Keegan Trost. Connor Towson's still there at center. But there were a few times in this game where I thought there were a few too many leaky moments. Like Mizzou's running game maybe took a little bit too much time to really get going. Eventually, Ahmad Hardy started to break off some runs, and it really paced Mizzou in that front. Hardy finished with 10 carries, 100 yards. Jamal Roberts actually started the game. He's the one that took the first snap. It seemed that he was maybe turned to a little bit more often than the first half. Hardy eventually got some more run early in the second half, and then both guys got to rest once Mizzou built the lead up. But there were times where I had a few questions about Mizzou's ability to convert short yardage at times with their run game. And Eli Drinkwitz even acknowledged like maybe their outside zone wasn't working as well as it maybe did. And he didn't seem too concerned about the offensive line play right afterwards. I wouldn't say that I'm overly concerned about it either, but there's still some question marks. It wasn't perfect by any means. And there were several occasions where Bo Prabula was taking some hits that I didn't think he needed to take because he should have maybe had a little bit better protection there in the pocket. One came to mind where he was completely blindsided. It's every coach's worst nightmare when they're watching on the sideline and they see their quarterback looking downfield in his set position, and he doesn't see an oncoming rusher coming right towards his backside, and the hit comes, whips his head back, and goes down. Like that's you always hold your breath. And I thought there were a few too many hold your breath moments during the first half in particular where the offensive line maybe needed to be better in those areas. Again, like they eventually got going. They changed out guys throughout the course of the second half to get them some experience. It's not to say I don't think you should be changing starters at this point. Again, they were good enough to get the job done, but good enough today doesn't necessarily mean good enough next week against Kansas. And I'm not entirely certain that if they play the same way that they did tonight, that you can expect to win with that same type of effort next week. Certainly not when you get to the SEC schedule. So I don't think that means you change out the starters after week one. That's not where Mizzou is at this point. You don't overreact that way. But you still have similar questions as to what you had going in. And maybe they start answering it against Kansas. Again, they're afforded a game that's you'd still have a few concerns afterward. But 2 in a row, another one down the line, and then you start to wonder, like, okay, does Mizzou have the dudes up front that they need in order to put together the season that they want? So not something that's hugely, an issue at this point, but it's not resolved, that's for sure. You have to still see a little bit better production, a little bit better consistency from the 5 guys up front, I think, that we saw today, because there were a few too many moments in the first half when this was, somewhat still in the balance, that Mizzou's offensive line maybe left a little bit to be desired. On the other side of the ball, in the next one, no real issues with how the defense played. I mean, I essentially call it a shutout. Like, yeah, Central Arkansas gone on the board against the fourth team defense in the last half minute of the game when they were down by 61 points, and the coaches are calling timeouts to try and get as many reps out of the end of this game as possible for their younger guys. Like, whatever. The effort from the defense was good enough for a shutout, and that's ultimately what matters. Now, it doesn't tell you much about the propensity of Mizzou's defense. Like, again, you should still give them their props for having the dominating performance that they did, even though that's really what you expect. Eventually, we saw the takeaways come. You saw Cameron Keys get the fumble recovery, and man, what a moment for Dante McClellan to get that pick 6 for 82, 83 yards going the other way, breaking a tackle as he got inside the 30 or 25 of Central Arkansas at that point. So, like, there were solid moments from players on the first team. Josiah Trotter stood out today, had some key run stops on some short yardage situations that Central Arkansas have. They tried to really build from their run game today, but again, nothing really got going on the other side. It was a mismatch. David Wilson got the first couple of sacks of the season. So you like what you see there. Mizzou got enough pressure to make sure that third downs were difficult. Like, again, the takeaway is you didn't see problems, and that's good news. So it doesn't mean that there won't be problems that pop up next week against Kansas. Maybe they'll see something and want to try and exploit it. But you got exactly what you expected out of this defense, maybe even a little bit more. So that's the key thing there. And the other part, the last takeaway really from the run game, I saw maybe a little bit be made of this. I'm not making a whole lot of it, but I think there was a reason why Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts were listed as essentially co-starters on the depth chart, because during the early portion of the season, that might have to be necessary. It might have to be Jamal Roberts taking a few more carries than maybe we all expected going in to allow for Mizzou's backfield to develop the way that they probably want it to. Ahmad Hardy, look, his game-breaking ability is evident. He showed that today. He showed that at Louisiana Monroe last year, earning Sun Belt Freshman of the Year last season. But, I mean, he takes a lot of hits. And look, that's a thing that he thrives on. He tries to break tackles and everything like that to get the offense going that he's a part of. But you always want to make sure that health-wise that you're preserving him going forward. So in the game against Central Arkansas, what Ahmad Hardy's about, what he can do, and he had the ability to show that, averaging 10 yards a carry tonight and getting in the end zone. Great. You don't need to get anything more than that out of this game. There will be more important games to come, so it makes sense to have Jamal Roberts take some of that load. And it'll probably even make sense to have Jamal Roberts in there in some of those more important games, because he does have more experience, certainly with this offense. He had some really good moments in pass protection today and has shown to be a plus in that department for Mizzou in all of his time here. And look, the times that he was able to carry the ball, it wasn't eye-popping by any means, but he can still be a steady guy that you allow Ahmad Hardy to, take a rest every so often, not take as many hits, because towards the end of this season, I mean, Ahmad Hardy last year maybe started to wear down a little bit. And if you translate that to this year, as you're taking hits from SEC linemen that are probably at least 25, 30 pounds heavier on average than the ones that he was facing in the Sun Belt, that starts to take a toll a little bit more. So whatever you can do early on in some of the games that you can have in hand, no matter who's in the backfield, try to find ways to lower the pitch count for a guy like Ahmad Hardy in those situations. I didn't mind it, and it allows Jamal Roberts to continue to be, I think, a valuable part of this offense. I think he'll continue to be that. Maybe not to the extent that Ahmad Hardy will eventually. I think what Mizzou probably still wants eventually this season is for Ahmad Hardy to be the bell cow. They've liked being able to pick one guy out that they know can be that game breaker type and allow him as many chances as possible, as long as it's still working, to be that driving force of the offense throughout the course of a game. So we'll probably see that this year. We didn't need to see it today, so Ahmad Hardy gets 10 carries, Jamal Roberts gets 8. Awesome. And DeVorce Jones even got 3 carries in there. Marquise Davis towards the end, good to see him get 5 carries as well. So, I mean, all in all, you don't really have too many complaints on that either. So the knee-jerk reactions there, and look, all in all, a solid game. There's a bit of a damper on the end of it with the injuries, and we'll learn more about them tomorrow, I assume. But you just feel for, at least for now, Sam Horn and Blake Craig, hoping that it's not too serious. But again, we'll wait and see. We won't speculate, but the optimism wasn't really there post-game from Eli Drinkwitz. So we'll find out very soon on that. Thanks for tuning in. Do want to end also with, a thought out to the family of Ben Arnett. We saw that news come across during the press conference, and just awful. I didn't personally know him, but you ask anybody that interacted with him, nice guy, Mizzou through and through, Columbia through and through, like grew up here and continued to work through the media landscape, knew this place like the back of his hand. And, it's really tough to see. And so praying for his family, wife and kids, going through an incredibly difficult time, but just really, really sad to see today. So spend a little bit of time thinking about him as well. If you're so inclined, if you're a praying person, do that too, because they'll certainly need it. Thank you so much for this first edition of the knee-jerk reactions as well. Thanks for coming on in. We'll look to do this after every game. At some point afterwards. Maybe it'll be a little bit delayed because of press conferences or, after road games, things like that, because of other, duties that we have to take care of for that. But we'll plan to do this every week after Mizzou's game, win or lose, throughout the course of the season. So we hope you join us for it. And while you're here on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel. It is brand new. We're trying to build it up, and we would appreciate any kind of like or subscription that you want to give to us. And so go and follow it, and also follow our social accounts. And we'll be back on the big show tomorrow with Brendan and me at 4:00 to talk more about this game. Maybe we'll know a little bit more about the situation with the two injuries at that point. And that'll be the plan going forward. So appreciate you joining us on the maiden voyage of the video knee-jerk reactions after Mizzou's 61-6 victory over Central Arkansas. Have a good night.